being Black in America means that unfortunately you start behind the start line.
Honestly, a low credit score makes for a very expensive life. People are always striving for a perfect credit score, which is an 850. Okay. But 740 is going to get you basically the same interest rates as an 850.
I am a teacher. And one of the things I love about being me is the fact that I truly believe and live the motto that I am my sister's keeper.
And how is that? How do you exhibit that in your life?
So whether it's my actual sisters, I have 4 sisters, and looking after them, whether it's babysitting, being an ear that they can kind of lean into, money to borrow, because that happens. Or whether it's my parents, I was able to pay off their home not too many years ago. And because I use the word sisters lightly, sisters just meaning the people that I care about most. Or it's my staff. I have an amazing team of 25, mostly women. I call them unicorns. And making sure, like just recently, we've been able to transform 19 of the 25 into employees with benefits, 401k plans, health, vision, dental, girl, right? Or whether it's my audience, the million plus, mostly Black women that I like to call my dream catchers, and giving away so many products and services to make sure that they're on financial track. I truly believe that I am my sister's keeper, that it is my purpose to help make those people who I'm connected to help make their lives better, that I'm a teacher, I am a caretaker, and I am my sister's keeper.
You mentioned you buying or, paying off your parents' home. Goals, Tiffany. Oh my God. One of my favorite flexes of new money, and I say new money because, our legacy money has been, racism took it away, and supremacy. So when I see Black folk with new money doing things like this, and I know we talked about social media offline, but social media allows us to see that, where like people like Brisha Webb, Amanda Seals.
All right, no mortgage on 3. 1, 2, 3. No mortgage.
So we're not really here for a notary. We're here because I'm paying off the house today.
What? You should have taken this.
I am taking
Oh my God.
Watching these people use their wealth to break the chains from the past, and you doing that yourself. Can you talk about what that means, especially as Black folk, what that means to be able to do that?
Because you are the personification of your ancestors' dreams. It felt amazing because my parents were born and raised in Nigeria. So they came here with a hope and a dream and had 5 girls, and college educated us and sacrificed. And what happened was my mom, she was a nurse, and she got about 2 more years until retirement, but she was tired. 5 kids, a husband, all these years on your feet as a nurse. She literally one day was like, I don't want to work anymore. It's just too much. And my father and I sat down and looked at their finances, and he had planned to the T, but based upon she retires in 2 years. And so she said, I don't care what you got to do, figure it out.
You hold on for 2 years.
That's really what he was like. And so I said, well, let's look at the budget, and the number that was the gap was really the amount of their mortgage, because they had taken out a second mortgage to put my sister through the last through school. And I said, you know what? I am in a position now, because I've grown my business and it's doing well, to be able to write that check. I'm always transparent about money. It was $120,000. And I remember I told my dad, because of all the kids, I was kind of like the wild one, just a little spicy. And they didn't really think it was going to work out for Tiff, okay? And so I told him, I said, Daddy, what would you do if I could pay off your mortgage? He was like, isn't that going to bankrupt you? And I was like, no, because my father was an accountant and a CFO before he retired. And I said, you taught me better than that, Daddy. I'm not going to bankrupt myself. And he was like, my mother with her nosy self, because I was talking to him in whispers. She came run out the room. Who paid off the house?
Already, it ain't even done yet. We just started talking about it.
I know. I wanted to talk to him privately about the financials just to see, because I didn't want to get her all geeked. And he was like, that would be amazing. And so that next Monday, I called their bank. I made the transfer, and I could tell he was like, this can't be real. He called me so excited. I said, yeah. He said, I called the bank. I said, okay. He said, I have an automated, you can get your automated balance. I said, okay. He said, I called it like 50 times. It says 0. I'm like, I know, Daddy. It's paid off. He was like, it says 0. We don't have any more mortgage. And my mother was like, that's my baby. I'm like, oh, now I'm your baby. A minute ago it was like this one over here.
You know how they do. You know how they do.
Yes. But to be able to do that is like, one, I get to finally say no more sacrifice for you, not on behalf of your children. That it's our turn now to pour into you. And it's like an opportunity to start to right the wrongs of what's happened to us generationally.
Yeah.
Anybody who pretends that we're not where we are because some folks have had a 400-year head start is lying to themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so being Black in America means that unfortunately you start behind the start line.
Yeah.
Sometimes miles behind the start line. And so I feel like this is me at the start line, like, okay, I'm here next to everyone else, So it was this crazy thing, Danielle, that I'd asked, I'd asked on social media, because I never thought about this, but I asked who's a homeowner? It was like, some white folks and Asian folks, Black folks. I said, how many of you got help with the down payment? I did not know that so many white people got help with their down payment, because it just was, I could not conceptualize that a parent could say, here's $50,000 here. And the more than not, white people that answered that had a house were like, yeah. My parents, as our wedding gift gave us, the $50,000, the $30,000, not one Black person, a person of color. They were like, y'all had help with your down payment? Tell me that's not a head start. You know what I mean? And so that's what this is. This gives us the opportunity to close the gap. And that's what I do. I know people hear Budgetnista and they think it's just about budgeting. It's not. It's about achieving what I call financial wholeness, a holistic view and mastery of your money, so you can pass that legacy on to your heirs. Now that there are different rooms that I'm privy to, the type of information that's being shared, that makes it so much easier. You're like, what? Yeah. You just have to do that? Anybody ever tell me that? And so imagine if, someone could give you pieces of information that you're like, yeah, girl, you don't have to make 50, you can make 100. And you're like, wow, it's what they know, what, because of whom. And because sometimes someone could grow up, with not much money, but because you have the complexion for protection, you also are still invited into the circle to know whom, to have access. Really, it's access. Yeah. That's what we do at Budgetnista. That's why I wrote Get Good with Money, to start to give you access to knowledge, to start to give you access to community, to start to give you access to tools and resources to help to level that playing field. Because, I was talking to one of my mentees, but first I was talking to one of my mentors, and I was telling her how, 2020 was good. We finally cracked the 8-figure mark. We just made just over $10 million as the Budgetnista. And she said, that's great, right? So I was like, she said, what's your goal for next year? And I said, oh, maybe between 11 to 15. And she's like, I'm thinking 20 million, 30 million myself. And I was like, what? And she was breaking down for me how she does something similar to what I do. She was breaking down for me how, and I was like, that's doable. That's a mindset shift that I would only have access to someone who was thinking about that differently. And so I had to realign and say, and then I ended up talking to my mentee that next day. And she was telling me how, if she's hoping that maybe in the next year or two, she'll crack the 7-figure mark, make her first million. And I was telling her how, we crossed over the 8-figure mark, and that how my mentor said, this is how she plans on making 20, was breaking it down. And she was like, Tiffany, you know what? My goal is 2 million in the next year, because now I was able to pass that access and knowledge that I got from my mentor down to my mentee. Sometimes it's just that simple. Sometimes it's just someone saying, this is possible, you know, and being like, okay, it is possible. Because she said, I thought it was
also, let me show you how.
Yes, this is possible.
But this is how.
Yes, this is how I'm doing it. That, you know, I'm making money from my course in this way. I'm also going to invest in this way. And you're like, oh, it's not that hard. Honestly, Danielle, when I tell you, once you start to make a certain level of money, you know, you realize like, it's not that hard. Once you understand the rules to the game, you're like, okay. People think that the work is in the sowing, the work is in the reaping. The real work is in the reaping. So I want, picture this.
You making points, Tiffany.
Right? You have a garden and you're like, ooh, I want some corn. So you're like, ooh, it's hot out here. I'm planting corn seeds and watering it and fertilizing it. You thinking like, this is where the work is at. No, sis. The real work is when that corn grows and it's time for you to reap and harvest that corn. That's the work. You got to cut the corn down. You got to shuck the corn. You have to take, that's the real work. So what people don't understand is that as you are putting into your dream, is it work? Yes. But the real work happens when you start to reap the benefits of your dream, because you have to get your basket ready. You know, you have to figure out where I'm going to put this. So that's what you're feeling, is that you are in your reaping season. So the real work for you has really begun. And so that's going to require the way you navigate as a sower is not the way you navigate as a reaper. And so you're adjusting to like, wait, what does that look like? And so it's a blessing. But certainly, like we said kind of offline, is that, does it get easier? No, but you get better.
Yeah. I really love this reaping and sowing analogy and all that you just put in my head, because it is tough. And no one really talks about those moments where you're jumping through where you've been financially. And how things absolutely do change. There's not a lot of conversations about that, especially in our world. And because I keep, you know, Black is my thing. That's whose stories I tell. But it's important financially when you talk about Black people because of our history. And now we are in a space where we're honestly, truly able to shift this scale. Not even just even it out. We can shift the scale on this thing. And so it's like so important to me to understand financial literacy. I know your book talks a lot about wholeness financially. So like, what does that look like? Financially whole versus financially free. Like, what do those things look like to you and what do they mean for you?
So I had to reach financial freedom like a couple of years ago. And I was like, I'm still a whole mess. Like, meaning I had enough money. If technically I didn't want to work anymore, I wouldn't have to. Now, I wasn't going to be making no hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, but you know, enough to be like to maintain my lifestyle if I didn't want to work anymore. And I was still terrified because I thought there's still so much that I'm lacking, not in money, but like I'm a financial mess still. Like, for example, if I would have passed away 3 years ago, what happens to my estate? I didn't have an estate plan, no will, no trust, no nothing. Boom, you know. 2, I was like, I'm underinsured because I was like, I didn't realize. Yes, that insurance, people, especially when you're grown. See, when you're young and you're 20, your insurance is yoga and water, right? You're like, oh girl, once you get to be grown, you're like, oh no. Once there's a 3 or 4 or 5 in front of your number, you start to realize, oh, insurance is important. I was underinsured and didn't even realize it. So there were components of my life that I realized that although I had money, it wasn't the full, complete picture of what it looked like to have a solid financial foundation. And that's when I came up with financial wholeness, that there are 10 components: it's budgeting, savings, credit, debt, earning, learning how to earn. It's investing, it's insurance, it's having a money team, like a support system of people who help you with your finances. It's estate planning, and it's your net worth. These 10 components of financial wholeness. So I created Get Good with Money to be a step-by-step guide through those 10 components, and not just to talk about them esoterically, but I was a teacher for 10 years. I have my master's in education. So to literally walk you through, here is the lesson, here's the homework, here's what it looks like, here's what it looks like complete. Now move on to the next one. And so this is literally a guide, step-by-step guide when it comes to your money. because having a ton of money is not enough. I want you to really to achieve wholeness, which means that you have a strong financial foundation that can take a lot, that can take a lot and keep ticking.
Yeah. I mean, that's enough in and of itself for the book to be gotten. Okay. Like that's enough, because it's like, it's more than just having money.
Yes.
It really is, because you do, like, I'm so endeared to you and to your journey because of how important it is to literally change the world. And I think that, like, I just think about my own journey with money and how amassing it is still not, it's not it.
It's not it. It's part of it, but it's not it.
Because I was praying for these days.
Yes.
But I'm just like, oh God, there's so much for me to figure out, because now I just want to be able to, like, spend and have a good time and whatever. But, like, that's also not it either. So it's
having a guide
so much to navigate through.
I always say that the 3 things you need, especially when you're on your financial journey, is knowledge, access, and community, right? So knowledge, when you know better, you do better. So like Get Good with Money, it's this guide. You're going to get your knowledge. Access to me comes through expert individuals, like my mentee getting it from me, me getting it from my mentor, like someone opening the door, because there's some doors that can only be opened from the inside. Like, ain't no door by now. Someone literally has to open the door and say, oh, come on in, Danielle. I got a space for you, girl. I've been waiting on you. Right? So access. So inside Get Good with Money, there are about 6 different experts who, like, for example, I'm not an attorney. So for the estate planning chapter, I brought in my estate planning attorney to walk us through what that looked like, because that's access, and then community. I truly believe, especially us Black folks, we work best in community.
Yeah. And have to, because it's going to be stronger.
Exactly. And when the first time I went to Nigeria, I was like, oh, wow. I remember the first time I went to Nigeria, and my dad would be like, oh, this is, your cousin, Michael Aliche. I'm like, oh, Aliche, that's my last name. Oh, and this is your other cousin, Chimeze Aliche. Oh my God, Aliche, that's my last name. My dad was like, everybody here is Aliche. I was like, what do you mean? He said, a village is family, extended family, extended family. And then the neighboring villages, that's the same. So when you like someone from a neighboring village, then the elders sit down and they go over the oral history of the families to make sure that you're not distantly related, to say, okay, you're allowed to marry. Yeah, that's how we know, like in our, there's some cultures where people be marrying their cousins, we don't do that, And so, but I just say that to say, like, wow, because I saw, like, wow, my great grandmother was still alive, that she was 103 years old. Everybody in the community would check on her every day. Then you see the little ones who were in school, literally, they would be coming home from school and people would be like, I heard today was exam day. Who came first in class? Who came second? It was always a big deal about the rankings, and we would celebrate, that child. So the community was collectively there supporting each other. And I'm like, wow, we work best in community. So knowledge, access, and community. And those are the tenets that I built the Budgetnista on, and why I do what I do and how I do what I do. Because I just know that there's so much more out there for us. And I think that we're deserving to have it. And I'm going to see that we get it.
Now that we are the Budgetnista, what's your relationship with money like?
My relationship with money is so much better because I finally learned to get help. About 3 years ago, I realized that I was suffering from post-traumatic broke syndrome. That I had been broke for so long, and violently broke. Like, there's broke and we ain't got enough money for food broke.
Yes.
So I was violently broke. And I told myself, even when I wasn't anymore, I was still so traumatized by it, I couldn't move past it. And so 3 years ago, I finally got a financial advisor for myself, because I needed someone, although I knew what to do, I needed someone to hold my hand through the process. And so now I'd say I've got a healthy relationship with money that I'm making even healthier. I'm not afraid of going broke anymore, because I really was. I literally would be like, well, any day now, just all fall. It's like, really, girl, because you had a really great year. Yeah, well, great years can mess up.
Yeah.
Any day now. And so I don't navigate from that space anymore. I'm more generous with myself because I was always generous with my family and friends. But I'm like, not you, Tiffany. I was punishing myself for past mistakes. Like, not you. I was like, oh, I really want a Peloton. My husband heard me tell my sister that I wanted a Peloton. And I was like, yeah, girl, but honestly, you know, it's too expensive. And he like poked his head and it was like, not for you. You have it. What I was saying really was, you don't deserve it, Tiffany. You forgot those mistakes you made. I was still punishing myself and not allowing myself to have nice things because I thought that I did not deserve it. I still had to pay penance for making those past mistakes, but we ain't there no more.